one of your papers looked at the zero harm ideologies and slogans and programs in place. And you concluded, or at least you found some tentative evidence that zero harm programs and ideologies might have been correlated with maybe worsened serious outcomes, or at least little discernible improvement. Now, assuming that we can trust the correlation between them, which is obviously a bit challenging with those sort of measures, what do you think we should replace zero harm ideologies with if someone had one and they wanted to sort of make use of your findings?
I mean, well, I'm a firm believer in the fact that we will know we have sorted out safety when it doesn't get mentioned at all, because it's just how you do the work and how you put people to work, and it's how we go around this. You don't actually need a safety program. You don't need all this propaganda. It's you actually want to be doing the work properly, correctly, to quality, to safety, to production standard, all this kind of, it should just be in the mix. So you don't need a branded program. The reason I got involved with Zero was because it actually landed on my desk while I was still a superintendent. So I had to deliver IIF, which is incident and injury free. So I did that, and I was in the room, and that's an American program, obviously. It's a great program. Culturally, it's very American, because I watched that with a load of steel fixers who were getting more and more traumatized. Firstly, they were indoors. They don't like that. Secondly, we're watching this video, and there's all emotions, and British men of a certain age do not like emotions, and that's okay. They have them, mainly around football. And so, of course, they have them, but this isn't. It didn't culture. That was super interesting how culturally that kind of was difficult to. But it was also something that I personally was like, well, okay, we can do IIF, but I ain't seeing you change the work systems we're using. I'm not seeing you invest loads more money in this. I'm not seeing anything changing other than we now have an IIF program. How is that going to make a difference? And it's so that was my take on Zero. Is it's all well and good to have a big, and then you have a big launch, don't you? I was at a conference recently, a big safety conference, and everyone was so excited that we were going to get Zero because they'd given everyone little flags that said zero harm on them. That's going to do a lot of good. Let me tell you now, they've fixed it. But so what would you replace it with? Nothing. I would actually show up and demonstrate by doing, show, don't tell, how you are helping people do stuff. And that will get you a hell of a lot more credibility with the people that are actually having to do the work than any blimmin', here's your new high vis because it's got a new logo on the back kind of thing. So there you go. That's my take on that. I'm not gonna in my new consultancy, we are not in the business of flogging safety programs, because that isn't how you should be doing things. That isn't how you should be doing things.
Colour by numbers.
Yeah.
So expanding on this Zero argument, did you explore the mechanisms why Zero programs and Zero ideologies might have a worsened impact?
I don't. Well, so to start with, I didn't do this to prove either way. What I thought was if they were amazing, the data would show it, right? The problem we've got is statistically, fatalities are still black swan events. We don't have enough. I had to once apologise to someone who was criticising this paper that we hadn't killed more people so we could do better testing. So I apologised on behalf of the British construction industry for not murdering lots more workers, which seemed a very pedantic and strange point to try and make. So all I thought was, you must be able to see something if it's great, right? And the correlation, the way safety works, it probably isn't those the arguments that I put out. So there's another paper that I did that was published in Construction Management and Economics that you might not have seen because it's not in a safety journal, but it's the one where I did the qualitative work that started the whole project. So I only got onto the stats after I'd done this, and that was involving interviews with workers, conversations rather, because I don't interview people, I talk to them, conversations with workers, website information, and various other site signage and other bits of safety propaganda lit about. And unpacking that creates some really interesting messes. Is it a target? If it's a number target, have we ruined it by getting one accident? When does it start? And in the UK, it was originally brought in by Balfour Beatty, who said zero harm by 2012. Believe it or not, they don't have a strapline like that anymore, because obviously, why make yourself such a hostage to fortune? It doesn't work like that. No, there is qualitative data. So it's super hard to do. I mean, you can't measure safety anyway. You can't do cause and effect in safety. It's too hard. There's too many variables. There's too many things to isolate. So I wasn't ever going to be able to do that, but I have prodded around in it a whole lot. So there's actually 3 Zero papers. There's the qualitative one, there's the UK stats, and there's the US stats, which also I think they came down on the other side in that there was a bit of an improvement. But like I say, there was no big change anywhere. So that was my only finding. I wasn't claiming anything more dramatic than that.
In one of your papers, maybe more than one, you were fairly critical, or at least challenged some of these notions of safety culture, at least as sort of a uniform single construct. I think your words were something like inconsistent or incomplete, or something around those. So should industry stop trying to build a single safety culture and instead recognize and nurture microcultures? And if they did, what would that look like?
Great question and great point. And I never thought of pitching it like that. You're not going to get a homogenized culture across everything. And we need to be careful when we're talking about culture as to what it actually is. And I am a big fan of it's how we do stuff around here. Because it's all those unspoken rules, it's all those unwritten down things that enable me to navigate a job site, whereas somebody that didn't work construction for 10 years is going to have a trickier time of it. So it's just how you behave and how you enact yourself. So I think you can have a site culture. So sorry, I'm very construction focused, obviously. So you can have a job site culture. You can have kind of an organizational way of doing things, but everybody knows that what's written on the website in terms of our vision and our values and all that sort of thing can be a world away from the actual team cultures. And you've got work gang cultures, and you have section cultures. My last big job that I did in the UK, I was in charge of block 3, and block 3 had a different way of doing things than block 2, because block 2 had a different supervisor. So you do need, and for all that I did come up with the naughty term safety leadership, which is where you just overdo things and try and make your name famous, usually by introducing a big branded safety program. But you do need to show up and be there and do it. And that's how you create what those norms are that fits into culture, and people start thinking, well, I could just get up on, no, I won't get up on there, I'll go and get the right podium steps because this is Fred's block, and if she catches me, they'll be held to pay. So you start creating those sorts of cultures. Micro cultures would be, yes, if you want to play with that. The problem is people do a big survey to do a snapshot climate study and then call that their culture, and that's just not how it works. And I've handed out more of those surveys and watched people fill in what they know they ought to say so they can get away from it as fast as possible. So there's that as well.
The surveys, yeah. So that's interesting. Surveys are almost certainly more climate factors.
Yeah, and they are. Hey, that's okay.
Yeah, that is fine, yeah. And then you get the Shine's layered approach. So that's like the surface manifestations and artifacts. There's certainly interesting stuff that comes out of the surveys, but it's not culture itself.
No, and that's kind of mainly because I think I got more annoyed about it when I came to the US, because they're much more focused on science and the science behind safety, and all credit to them. I've never worked with professionals that read academic papers before. I'm absolutely, whoa, but and all credit, it's fascinating, it's brilliant. But the thing that was people misappropriating science in terms of measuring something. That's what I'm leveraging. and if we're going to do it, we ought to do it properly. We shouldn't be loose with our terms and inappropriate with our methodologies when we're exploring culture, if we are going to be taken seriously as a scientific field.
Some of your work, I really love the papers around the safety observation reporting. And you've got research around the industry's sort of fascination with unsafety rather than safety. But
yes,
I'm really interested in some of the findings around the safety observation reporting. Something like you found they had unintended consequences, they increased admin, they focus on things that people were already going to do anyway. And you actually said, I think these are pretty close to your words, some of these systems implemented may cause more harm than good. Is that still your consistent finding? And if you had a clean slate to redesign them, how do you think that would look differently?
We had a whole bunch of reports that we were able to analyse and look at and explore. But interestingly, some of the stuff, the amount of admin they generate is phenomenal, especially if you take the view, and I'm still thinking about this. So some companies take the view that they want people to report everything, even on the drive to work, even things that happened at home. And then you can get databases with tens of thousands of entries over a year. Of course, and who is going to be analysing that or has the time to analyse that? But I suppose AI could do it, probably not very well, but never mind. So, but the other things that we found, it starts being used for finger pointing. The delight when people get to put the safety guy in there because they did something wrong. Oh, you can feel the glee on the page. And yes, so-and-so walked across the car park without their hard hat on and things like that. And it's, what are we collecting it for? And this strikes me as peculiar. particular, and then you get people that report things that they could have just fixed, like there's a box in the way, well, move it, and they wait all day and then they report it and things like that. And again, it comes back, I think, to the actual people doing the work and being able to make a positive change quickly. So it shouldn't necessarily go into a system and then something else happens, or these things take time to come through. What you want is actual immediate care and attention to your work environment, whether it's conditions, whether it's somebody that isn't gelling with what you're doing. You need to be able to fix things a lot swifter than some systems allow. But I think, we do it. I think it has value, definitely. And one of the things I was super interested in, I never got to write the paper, unfortunately, was, I think it was something Corey Pitts has said, where you look at your near miss databases and you count the percentage of things you wouldn't have known about. And that tells you how people are talking to you. And you don't need, what I would also recommend is not a super structured form with about 50 things in, because firstly, people get bored and stop halfway through. And secondly, because you want them to tell you what they think is important. And you can learn a lot more from that and how people are communicating with you. What are they valorizing? What are they diminishing? How are they doing things? You could get a lot more out of that report if people could just sort of free flow it. You should be getting people doing them on films and little voice notes as well. You don't need to be quite so formulaic with them, because some of the systems that I've had the pleasure of getting in amongst, you do see quite a lot of reports that are either done by management people, because the actual boots on the ground, some of them do super engage, but you've got to make it easy and you've got to make it doable for them. So that can help. There's a lot of rich data there, but if you're getting all the same near miss reports that this is the same problem every single, and the ones, so another thing was, remember I was in construction in the 90s, okay, things are slightly different, but at the end of every month, if you put a target on your near miss reporting, you're going to get absolute dross, because people report to hit the target. And I used to work with a lad, and every month he'd put standing water risk of cholera in Manchester, England. And he put that in every month and nobody ever pulled him up on it. So it's like, is anyone reading these? It's interesting. And I think we could do that better. There's ways of trying different things that could maybe make it much more easier for people to engage. But the thing I don't like about them particularly is that they put a delay or a barrier in between getting something done. Yeah. Hopefully somebody had fixed the thing, or get somebody else to fix the thing safely and properly, and then put the report in that it happened. So it's a post-event situation, whereas I have seen them proactive, and that's not what it's for, but people don't realise maybe.
Yeah, so the managing the documents and the artifacts becomes the whole intent of it.
Yes, it'd be just safety theatre. I mean, one of the biggest problems we have is that safety is so othered, and it has got its own department, whereas it should be much more with how work is being done rather than any kind of external situation to that. And I guess that's why I'm always sort of getting in. If I'm looking at construction safety, I'm also looking at the construction. I'm not looking at just safety. Yep. Because it's all about how was that layout set out like that? How was that put like? And I think that gives me I quite enjoy being able to have that perspective.
I don't know if there's a really clear answer to this one, but in your Structured for Unsafety paper, you found that some procurement practices could increase risk. And you gave some examples like cheap or poorer quality equipment and temporary works.
Yep, absolutely.
I was wondering, what would a more productive procurement approach look like, do you think? Just a few ideas.
Firstly, Ben, we have to stop having a neoliberal economy, don't we, mate? So we're kind of boned on this one. So unfortunately, if you've got competitive tendering, you are opening the door to that sort of thing. You are opening the door to value engineering, to planning for claims, to subs of subs of subs of subs of subs. And there are all sorts of, lots of, so I actually stopped researching safety because I got bored with saying time and money every damn time. That's why something went wrong. And it is. I'm afraid that's it. We're not seeing as much. We're just going to go on lowest price anymore. But then we start adding other metrics. But safety and not the TRIR or any statistic like that, but actually how organisations operate would make for. You don't actually have to do competitive tendering. I mean, I used to teach procurement I've taught all aspects of construction at one time or other, and I used to tell students there isn't a law, unless you're the government, there is no law that says you have to competitively tender to find subcontractors. You can find people that you like, who you respect their values, who want to be on board and partner with you, hire them. You don't need 3 quotes. It's just annoying to the 2 people that have done quotes and spent their time doing that, which, by the way, gets added onto the price for the next guy. So construction never helps itself in that regard. But there are, procurement, particularly within construction, can be an absolute massive cause for why your safety is shit, basically. And you can predict that, but it seems to be that's the way we've always done things, so that's the way we're always going to do them. But you don't have to. By the way, you really don't. I've always come on the side of the worker, because that used to be me. So I know damn well what they're having to deal with and how they're trying to do it and how that goes. I've always tried to challenge things or poke at things that I think aren't right, but not from a position of this is wrong and I'm going to prove it. It's just a case of, well, is this doing what I think it's doing? And doing that to the best of the methodological abilities that we have. And like I say, I mean, stats aren't my thing. They're a thing people love to rely on, but safety doesn't work like that. And I think everybody knows that really deep down. But we do like a dashboard, and we like things that change colours, particularly those of traffic lights and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of, but that's the human condition. That's how we are, and it's interesting and messy. And yeah, I've had a great time. I've had a very interesting life to date, and I hope it long continues. And doing construction safety, if I can help workers. All I ever really wanted to do was stop workers getting hurt and killed. I've put into enough donations when someone's had an accident and then they couldn't work and couldn't pay the mortgage, couldn't pay the bills. I'm here for all those people that I worked on site next to for a long time.
I'll throw your site up on the screen so people can see how to find you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm more than happy to talk to people or share. If people have questions about what I'm up to or anything like that, reach out. Make a new friend.
Really appreciate your time, Fred. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Excellent. Yeah, me too, Ben. Thank you so much for inviting me.